Righto, we might make a start. So, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. So this is our second annual report card for Grow, and it's really great to have all of you here. So many people in the room, and maybe still a few coming. Maybe the 7 o'clock start tested a few people, but I'm sure they'll turn up shortly. So great to be here at the Eastern Hub, a terrific venue, and to have everyone here. Can I start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather? They, of course, are the Wadawurrung people, and they are members of the Kulin Nation, one of 5 members of the Kulin Nation. And so on behalf of everyone here today, I'd like to pay our respects to all elders, past and present. Also, just quickly as I start, there are a few people who I would like to mention and thank for being here. The member for Geelong, Christine Cousins. Thanks, Christine, for coming along nice and early. I'm sure you've got a busy time at the moment, so nice for you to give up some time for us. Thank you. Also to 2 important groups of people, the boards of both Give Where You Live Foundation and G21. There are a number of board members here from both organisations. So from Give Where You Live Foundation, the chair of Give Where You Live, Murray Boyd. Thanks, Murray, for being here. Austin Patterson, Deb Thurlin and Justin Hartnett. Welcome to all of you. And from G21, the board of G21, Brett Winter, who's also the CEO of the Geelong Port. Councillor Susan Salter, the Mayor of the great borough of Queenscliff. Susan, welcome to you and thanks for coming. Eric Brassless, who's the CEO of Golden Plains Shire. Keith Bailey, the CEO of the Surf Coast Shire. And Lenny Jenner, the CEO of the Borough of Queenscliff. So welcome to all those people. Both of those boards, voluntary boards, and people putting in their time and effort, and a lot of time and effort actually on both of those boards. And I know both boards do a fantastic job for both organisations. We've also got people from our Compact Action Network. There's people from our Regional Procurement Steering Group here. People from our Strategic Advisory Group. Signatories to the Grow Compact, and just general supporters of Grow. So welcome to you all. If you're not in any of those groups, or I haven't mentioned you, then you might want to check your calendar. You're probably at the wrong place. So you might, if anyone just wants to take leave, that's fine. So today we're here to present the annual results of the Grow initiative, which has been, we talk about it being around for, it varies. So if you actually want to say when the first moment we started thinking about Grow, and it wasn't actually Grow at that point in time, but an initiative such as Grow, it was probably close to 6 years ago. We've actually had staff employed for nearly 3 years now, and it's really been taken off since we've done that. I think as a partnership, the initiative is a partnership between the Give Where You Live Foundation and G21, the Geelong Region Alliance. And while it's a partnership of those 2 organisations, I actually think really it's a regional initiative. It's really not our initiative. It's the regions. It's actually all of yours. It's the people who sign up. It's the compact signatories. It's the organisations who are doing their compact action plans and doing the work on a daily basis, employing people, changing their procurement practices, and effectively changing the culture of how we go about doing business in this region. So it's really all of yours. One of the things we try and do though is of course set a framework around that. And one of those frameworks we use, an important one, is collective impact. We're not zealots around collective impact, and there's a whole range of things with collective impact that I think are important. There are 5 key elements. One of them is setting an agenda, and I think hopefully we've done that. So our agenda is absolutely 100% addressing entrenched place-based disadvantage, and we know that exists in our region. But equally, there are a couple of other important elements of collective impact that I think are worth mentioning. One is continuous communication, and I guess that's what today's about. Another is about a shared measurement system, and again, I think that's what this is about. Equally, within the Grow strategic plan, there are 4 key pillars, and one of those key pillars is to report the results on a shared measurement, in a shared measurement type of way. So today, that's what we're doing. We said it from the start we'd always report the results. We know that sometimes, thankfully, in a nice way today, the results are terrific and we're really excited about them. But we do know that sometimes, and there'll be a year somewhere along the line where those results maybe don't quite meet the things that we want them to meet. We'll still report those because we think that even by doing that, that's going to create create some change for the initiative. It'll make us look at something that's not working. It'll make us adapt the initiative and make sure that it works in the future. So we're really determined and really committed to reporting all of those results and publishing them as much as we can. So that's what we'll do today. But before I get to the results, I just want to talk a little bit about why. So why do grow? So as you can see up there, we have a challenge in our region, I reckon. And that challenge is around a growing prosperity. So it doesn't sound like much of a challenge if you've got growing prosperity. That sounds like a pretty good thing to me. But realistically, that growing prosperity isn't equal to everyone. Not everyone has access or opportunity to participate in that growing prosperity. In fact, in some places, metrics go backwards and have continued to go backwards for years, in fact, if not decades. To achieve change in those areas, we need systemic change. So it's not individual organisations doing things, it's not individual programs helping people. And while they're important and they're useful, we need to change the system. The system by which we operate needs to change to allow these places to participate in this growing prosperity that we know exists. And to do that, I think we need to do something different. The slide that you can see up there is, in fact, the challenge that exists in a theory of change that the Give We Live Foundation put together for us as an overall organisation. But it is, and while it's true that that's what we want to try and achieve as an organisation, it's absolutely true for the Grow initiative as part of our organisation. It's well and truly true for that as well. So it's worthwhile considering then the target communities. And so up there now you can see the 4 target communities of the Grow initiative: Norlane, Corio, Whittington and Colac. Now when we say Colac, really we mean parts of Colac. It's unfair to simply just say Colac because it's not all of Colac, but it's parts of Colac. And those figures up there that you can see are the latest figures coming out of the census, latest ABS figures that we've worked hard at putting together. And you can see that while, in fact, the G20, when I say the latest, the G21 unemployment rate, well, of course that changes. We get a new figure every month. And the latest is, in fact, 6.3% unemployment rate. So you can see that at 6.3%, that's around about state average. It's around about national average as well. So that's good as a region, and I think we could pat ourselves on the back about that. But if you look at the unemployment rates of the areas that we're talking about, Norlane at 17%, Corio at 12%, Whittington at 10%, all way higher, some double, some nearly triple the average rate of the region. Colac's an interesting one because as a broad place, again, Colac is at 4%. So again, we could say, well, hang on, why Colac? But Colac experiences exactly the same challenge that we experience here in Geelong, and that is that pockets of Colac, not all of it, pockets of Colac experience severe disadvantage. So at a more micro level, at a level where you look at about 200 households, and we've characterised it up there as a small area unemployment, you can see that in Norlane, small areas, so if you break Norlane up into 200 household lots, you've got unemployment ranging from 6%, which is about the average of the region and about the state, all the way up to 25%, and the same in Corio. So that means 1 in 4 people in those blocks of 200 households, 1 in 4 people unemployed. And that's where you can start to see the work that we need to do in Colac as well, because it ranges from 2%, which is obviously very low, all the way up to 15%. The final thing I want to just draw your attention to is the CEFA ranking. So the CEFA is Socio-Economic Index for Areas, body of work done at each census, where it effectively ranks every area in the country on relative disadvantage. So you get a score. And while the scores sometimes can be hard to compare from census to census, it doesn't necessarily correlate that way. Rankings can. So within our region, we've got East Colac ranked as the 2nd most disadvantaged community in the state. We've got Norlane ranked as the 3rd most. And then Corio, 26th ranked, and Whittington 18. So all 4 areas in the top, if you can say top, worst 30 in our state. 2 of the 4 in the worst 3. So that to me is, you can't even fathom that when you sit here and I look at all of you. I can't even contemplate that. I don't even understand how that works, or that is actually true. But it is. I'm telling you, it is absolutely true. So while the figures are very important and the stats are very important in those places, what also is important is what we hear from participants within, and clients, if you like, within the GROW initiative. So we've undertaken two sort of bodies of research in many respects. So that is that we're undertaking a longitudinal study, but we're also doing some action research. And as part of that action research, we are talking to clients about, so what are the barriers? So you see the figures, you see the numbers, and you think, gosh, they're awful. What are the barriers to getting jobs? So they told us a whole range of different things. They told us that they told us about internet troubles. They told us around trust. They talked about just being given a chance. Talked about misconceptions about who they are and what they are and what they're capable of. They talked about just absolutely being invisible and even, but knowing still that they needed a job. So for most of us in the room, I reckon we've all gone through the process of getting a job. We've all, and probably multiple times, we've all done that. And to an extent, that process is rudimentary for us. We know what to do. You find the job, you find the ad, you do your CV, you send it in. Hopefully you get an interview. If you get an interview, you do some research. You research the place, you research the job. You go along to the interview, hopefully you ace the interview and you get the job. That's a process we're all pretty familiar with. But for some people, so I want to take you out of your own shoes for a second. So imagine you weren't who you are and you didn't have that capability. You didn't think that process was rudimentary. And what you did have to do is apply for a job. But when you go to apply for a job, you didn't have the internet. So you weren't connected. So in some parts of our region, actually more than 1 in 2 households don't have access to the internet. So I don't even know how you find a job nowadays if you don't have access to the internet. How do you see an ad? I suppose they're still in the newspapers, are they? Is anyone buying a newspaper lately? We're not looking at it on the internet. So how do you even do that? So you don't have access to the internet. But if you find the job and you go, okay, good, I'm going to do it, but you've got high level of anxiety. So what have you got high level of anxiety? You've got high level of anxiety about being pigeonholed. So again, all of us will have been pigeonholed at some time in our lives. We'll have been pigeonholed as the business person who wants to be a not-for-profit person, or a not-for-profit person who wants to be a business person. Maybe the creative type who really actually thinks that they are quite strategic, or the opposite, a strategic person who's actually got an inner creative in them. Not really bad pigeonholes to think about. Imagine if you're pigeonholed like this. Imagine if you were pigeonholed because of the way you looked, because of the clothes you wore, but you don't really have any ability to change those because you don't have the funds or the access to change your clothes. Because of your surname, just simply because of your surname is a name that isn't acceptable in the labour market that you're in, or because of your address. So you're pigeonholed because of those. And because of those pigeonholes, there are absolutely automatic misconceptions about you that are fundamentally incorrect. They're fundamentally wrong just because of those things. So some of those misconceptions are that you're dumb, that you're not smart. Based on your address, for God's sake. You can't be smart based on your address. You don't want to work. Hard to imagine that that's the case. Or even probably worse, that you're just utterly invisible and not even considered. A CV just gets thrown aside, no way, not even interested. So while all that's happening around you, you do know though that you want to work and you need to work because you know that a job gives you a place in the world, it gives you a place in the community, it gives you dignity, it gives you funds, it sustains your life. So hopefully none of us are ever going to be in that position. Hopefully none of us are ever going to be in that. But some people are, many people are. So I think that's the why grow. That's why we do this. That's why all of you are involved in it, and that's why we want more people involved in it and everyone involved in it in the end. One of the things with the research we've learned is that one of the key things to help people is that you need a supportive environment within employers. Employers need to understand some of the challenges and work with people on challenges, and we do that every day of the week. I know I do it every day of the week, and just because my challenges or the challenges of some people who work within my organisation are different to these challenges, that's all they are. They're just different. They're still challenges. So a supportive environment is absolutely critical, as is some individual support for those people. individual continued support to stay in those jobs. So that's a bit about the why. So I guess how do we go about doing this? So the compact action plans and the Grow Compact is the key vehicle to how we create change and cultural change within our region. We've currently got 82 compact signatories, which is fantastic. And then in some ways that's an achievement in itself, I reckon, although it's not necessarily the achievement we want to talk about today. But it is a significant achievement, and obviously we would hope to continue to grow that. Of those 82, we had 26 who supplied us with data, and there are 46 compact action plans in place, being developed, not necessarily in place. So of the 82, we've got 46 compact action plans being developed. Another great result. Having said that, the converse of that is there's nearly 40 that aren't. So there are 40 compact action signatories that are not developing a compact action plan. So some of those will have only just signed up and haven't had a chance. Others maybe are just dragging the chain a bit. So we encourage those people, those organisations to develop those compact action plans. We've got within those compact action plans, 32 organisations have made a commitment of a future employment offer. So they've said within their plan, in the future, at some point, we're going to offer some roles and some jobs to people from disadvantaged backgrounds and from our target communities. And equally, 36 have made commitments around their procurement and changing their procurement into a more local way. So the compact and the compact action plans are one of the absolute key vehicles. As I said, there are 46 compact action plans in development. These are the organisations that have actually published their plans. So they're public documents available to people to see. They're on our website. Many of them will be on the individual organisation's website. I know from our perspective, we published it. We went through a process where we developed it with the team. We then presented it to the board. We recommended it to the board who thrashed it out as well, and then they ratified it. And we then launched it at our AGM in November. And we produced a document that we gave out to everyone who turned up to the AGM, and it's now on our website, and we'll report against that at our next AGM, and then we'll produce another plan for the next 12 months. That's kind of the process that I hope many organisations undertake. So there's still a few to be published and still a few to be started, but I hope that they get started soon. I guess equally the how is to think about the theory of change within Grow, and the theory of change looks a little bit like that. It's a nice linear thing, and it sort of goes like this. So if we change the expenditure and the procurement within the region, that'll grow the economy, that'll grow local jobs, and then our role is to target some of those local jobs to disadvantaged areas. Kind of sounds nice, it's nice and neat, it's a nice little linear arrow there, it's a good drawing, it's easy to understand, it's kind of a good diagram. And it's a good theory. So the reality in the operation of Grow is it's more like that. So that's disappointing. That's one way to look at it. That's why you're in the job, Anne. So the reality is it can be a mess. And we sort of know, and we sort of think we know where we are, so we're here somewhere. And then what happens is that an organisation shuts down. One of our key partners closes their doors, or they merge. A number of organisations merge. And while we think we're there, maybe in fact we're actually over there. And then we get a handle on that and we say, that's good, but then key personnel from key organisations leave, or there's an organisation restructure, or multiple organisations restructures. There are different funding shifts in the employment services or the training sector or a significant sector. There's an economic transition. And while we think we're maybe there, actually maybe we're here. So within all of that mess, one of the things that we know is that we're working in a dynamic environment. We're working in an environment that changes each day and changes every time. And while we've tried to systematise things as best we can, we've done that through compact action planning, where you can do it online now and people can go on and fill out a form and create a compact action plan relatively easily. Still takes some work, but relatively easy. We've got a social procurement toolkit which allows people to put clauses in their tenders and ways to measure their tenders around social procurement and local procurement. We've systematised those things. The reality is this is still face-to-face work. This is engagement every single day of the week. So somebody once talked to me about businesses that are cats and dog businesses. So a cat business being one that is able to be rolled out easy. isn't necessarily about engagement. A dog business is about the one that, you know, the dog that comes up and, you know, licks your face and wants the love. This is a dog business. This is about engaging constantly. It's about, it takes time, it takes money, and it takes effort, but it is about that. It's about sitting in front of people and getting them to think about what they can do, and once they've thought about it, actually getting them to act. So that's kind of how we do it. So we understand why we're doing it, and that's some of the ways in which we do it. So what have we been able to achieve? So up on the screen now, you can see our dashboard, and this will go live today. If you can't read all the things, I'm going to give you a closer look at some of the achievements shortly. That dashboard is live today. It's a new dashboard. We've worked hard at achieving that new dashboard. You can see at the top that it's slightly changed in the way we present it, and it will show the why do it, the how we do it, and what we've achieved. And so that'll be available to everyone on our website as of this morning. Some of the things within that is that we can report, and I'm really pleased to be able to report these things, is that we've seen a $20.21 million shift from non-local expenditure to local expenditure over the course of the last 12 months. And that $20.2 million through economic modelling and using REM has created about 179 jobs, or to be exact, 178.8 jobs. So we know that therefore the local economy has grown. We know that we've been able to shift some of the information across, some of the expenditure across to local expenditure, and that is creating an environment in which we are creating jobs, and allows us to work with more disadvantaged places to target some of those jobs, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I just want to talk about the data for a second. The data is difficult, and because it comes from a wide variety of organisations in different formats, out of different accounting systems and different accounting packages, none of which lines up, and it's hard to line up. So we have to spend a lot of time cleaning that data. So what we know that data is from 16 organisations. So we got data from more than 16 organisations, but it was impossible to clean it. So we know that $20 million is a conservative number. I can tell you that within that, there were 3 organisations that actually decreased their local expenditure. But within those 16 organisations, there was an increase of spend of about $27.5 million across the board, which is a fantastic growth in terms of expenditure within those businesses. So to give you an example of the vagaries of all of that, is that an organisation one year, so let's pretend last year, might have had a big project going on. It could be anything. It could be the development of a new product, it could be a capital project, a big project. And they make the decision to use local suppliers to fulfil a lot of the needs within that project. So their local spend goes up. And we report that and we say, look at that local spend, that's fantastic. That organisation's done a great job and it's working. At the end of that project, at the end of the year, that local spend disappears. And it doesn't disappear because there's a different intent from that organisation. It just disappears because it's no longer available. The spend is literally no longer available because the project has concluded. So when we're reporting, we're trying to, as best we can, compare apples with apples from year to year. And while that, as I say, while that figure is conservative, we know it to be accurate. We spend a lot of time making sure it is accurate. And as I say, it is not a simple task to compare from year to year. Organisations spend differently from one year to another for a range of reasons. And one of the things I think we need to start really concentrating on and thinking about is intent within that expenditure. So as I say, just because that expenditure doesn't exist doesn't mean that the intent has changed. The intent could have increased, but an organisation just simply doesn't have the ability anymore to spend the money that they had in the past. So one of the key outcomes, the absolute key outcomes of GROW is jobs in targeted communities, or jobs for members of the community in those target areas. And what I'm really excited to be able to report is that we can put our hands on the shoulders of 75 people who are from our targeted communities who have jobs, who have been given a job over the last 75, over the last 12 months. That is a fantastic result. That's organisations from our compact signatories creating opportunities for people in our targeted areas and employing them, 75 people. Now those jobs could be apprenticeships, they could be traineeships. Equally, we've got 7 job pathways, and those pathways are things like internships and work experience. So the journey to getting a job is both a journey that sometimes organisations take, as well as the employers, as well as the job seekers. And that journey sometimes starts with work experience or an internship, and so they're really important. While they're not jobs, they're really important pathways towards becoming employed. So to have 75 people who we can look at, talk about how their employment's going over the last 12 months is absolutely fantastic. You can see last year that we've put the last year's results, 2016, up there as well, and we reported 60. What I can also say, we asked a lot of questions when collecting this data. What I can tell you is that of the 60 from last year, 72% of them are still in the job. So that is a really high retention rate, a fantastic retention rate, and goes to not only the environment employers are providing those people, but also the support that many services, many organisations around Geelong are providing those people, individual support. It really goes to that collective action in trying to help people into a role. Of the jobs this year, of the 75, 16% were in Colac, 32% were in Whittington, and 52% were in Norlane, Corio. So a good split across the region. So the results we're really pleased with. We're absolutely wrapped, in fact, with the results. There's a lot of hard work gone into them, and as you can see, a lot of mess in some ways that has gone into them. But nevertheless, it's been a really terrific 12 months and a lot of hard work. While we can look at the metrics and we can look at all the numbers and I can stand here all day, I probably can't stand here all day, but I can stand here for a fair while and talk about them. What's actually, I reckon, important is to hear from compact signatories and hear their journey and how they go about doing it. And we're going to do that in a second with a panel. We're also going to hear from one of our really key funders in the state government, from RDV, who have been incredibly supportive of our organisation and of this initiative. So to do that, I'm going to introduce Elaine Carbines. Elaine, as you will all know, is the CEO of G21. And so I'm extremely fortunate within this initiative particularly to wear two hats. So obviously I'm the CEO of the Give Where You Live Foundation. I'm also the chair of G21. So I get to work with Elaine a range of different levels actually. But one thing I know I get to do is I get to sit in on a whole heap of meetings where Elaine is sitting before members of Parliament, and we've got Christine here, she'll attest to this as well. And Elaine's understanding and knowledge of what's going on around the region is second to none. But what is really impressive is the advocacy. GROW has benefited from that advocacy that we get every day from Elaine and through the organisation G21, the board as well. And it's a great thing to watch and behold, but it's also a fantastic thing for the initiative. So I'm going to hand over to Elaine, who is going to now run this panel. So here's Elaine. There we go.
Thanks very much, Bill, and what amazing results and what an amazing collaboration. People of this region really care about the people that live in this region and are trying to make training and job opportunities for our most marginalised people, and you are the people that are creating that change. So the aim of the panel is to provide practical insights into the way that our GROW Compact signatories and key partners are taking action, and to hear real stories of the outcomes. So I'd like to bring up to the front here and introduce Mel Pearce, who's the Regional Manager at Bendigo Bank, an inaugural compact signatory in 2015, with Mike Hurst here, and I'd like to acknowledge Mike, who's a local champion on our GROW Strategic Directions group. So please welcome Mel. We have Richard Martin here from Hamlin Homes. He's a local residential builder. Hamlin Homes have been significant contributors to GROW. They've been part of GROW since early 2016, and in particular have worked on the BAPcare affordable housing project in Norlane. So please welcome Richard. And we have Leah Mead here. Leah works for the Give Where You Live Foundation and GROW in Colac. She's working on the ground with disadvantaged job seekers funded by Jobs Victoria. So please welcome Leah. And lastly, but by no means least, I want to introduce Kerry Erler. Kerry is the Manager of Economic Development for the Barwon Southwest region of Regional Development Victoria, so it's a very long title. Kerry has been a supporter of GROW since the outset. When it was just a concept, Kerry got it and has worked so hard to help us articulate the aspirations of GROW to government within her own department, and has been, I see as pivotal to the success of GROW receiving the funding and the support of the state government. So please welcome Kerry. So Kerry's going to be our first speaker, and she's going to talk about, I suppose, the journey from RDV's perspective. So handing over to you, Kerry.
Thanks, Elaine, and I'm pleased to be here in front of all these faces. It's been a bit of a long journey, as Elaine's pointed out. So from an RDV perspective, it's a real privilege to work with the GROW team, and we see it very much as a partnership, not just an organisation that provides funding to a program. So, and without that partnership approach, we'd be unable to have honest conversations around the importance of quality, long-term jobs for disadvantaged people. GROW certainly set themselves and have a big target to reach around how many jobs they intend to deliver through this program, but we have the honest conversation about it's about quality compacts, it's about quality outcomes and quality jobs that see people in work long term. So from an RDV perspective, we're just one part of the state government, and the department more broadly through Jobs Victoria is also addressing issues around disadvantaged job seekers. And part of the approach is a new approach that's been recently launched by Minister Carroll and Minister Robin Scott around the social procurement framework. So it was only announced on the 26th of April as a new approach to government procurement. So I'm going to have to read from notes because it is actually so new that, you know, we're all just learning about it as well. So the Victorian government's procurement is one of the largest drivers of the Victorian economy. That's no surprise, I'm sure, but it's well in excess of $10 billion that is spent on goods and services to support service delivery and operations. And in addition to that, there's $9.1 billion on public construction and infrastructure in the previous financial year that was spent. So that's, you know, the Victorian government is one of the biggest businesses in the state, basically, so, or is. So going forward, for the pipeline projects that we have for this year and leading out to 2021, annual infrastructure spending will be $9.6 billion just to deliver the infrastructure projects that are on the books now. So that's significant in a sense to stimulate the economy, but also to create jobs. So as I said, Minister Carroll and the Minister for Finance, Robert Scott, launched the Victorian Social Procurement Framework, and the framework aims to ensure value for money considerations are not solely focused on price, but encompass opportunities to deliver social and sustainable outcomes that benefit the Victorian community. So GROW is a key component and a real driver of that thinking in government. And it is a joint collaboration between the department RDV sits in, which is a very long title, Department of Economic Development, Jobs, Transport Resources, DEGITA for short, and also Department of Treasury and Finance. And the framework is an Australian first, so Victoria is leading the way in this approach, and GROW is leading the way regionally. So I think that's just a credit to the team and to G21 and everybody in this room to be taking that approach. So we're looking forward to being measured on our social procurement spend, and that starts in September this year. So every department will be required in their annual report to say how they're delivering on social procurement outcomes. So I think that we'll be held to account, and that's an important part of certainly what GROW does as well. The compact signatories are so committed, but they're also accountable to the state government to deliver on their outcomes. So it's what is it, Hakuna Matata, the circle of life. Everybody's accountable to somebody else. So as I've said, I mean, the state government has significant purchasing power and dollars to spend in regions. And so the opportunities that are available for local businesses to get government contracts in this region are significant, and the state are constantly working towards that outcome, and the new social procurement framework is the start of that for us. And I have to say that for us in RDV, as I said, working with GROW is important. We hope to be working with other communities in this space as well. And I would really encourage everybody to read the framework. It's available on the Job Victoria's website. And I think we will continue to work with GROW. I think we'll be working with GROW for many years, long past this initial initiative. But the social procurement framework, which is the government's commitment to working in this space and using its dollar, its spend to create local jobs for disadvantaged job seekers, including Aboriginal people, women at risk, young people, and people in disadvantaged communities, is one of the biggest commitments that's been made. And as I said, not only Australian first, but it's a world first that it's been rolled out on this scale. And those are the minister's words, not mine. So I think it's really important that we all get behind GROW and we continue to work together in a partnership. And as I said, we have some robust conversations around how we're going to deliver and how we might do better, and how we might bring other programs that RDV have at their disposal, like the Skills Fund, how we might work with those programs to skill people up to be in the work environment and to be supported by all you people who are signatories, but also through the hard work of the GROW team.
Thanks very much, Kerry. That's really exciting news that the Andrews government has committed to the social procurement framework. Christine, please take our gratitude back to your colleagues. It's very, I think we all should feel proud that our state is actually seeking to address disadvantage and create local opportunities through such a social procurement framework, and that is very much the genesis of GROW, because it's not just about increasing the local economic benefits, but it's actually creating opportunities for our most marginalised members of our community here in the G21 region. We're going to hear now from some of our, I suppose, key signatories to the compact. They were inaugural signatories, and they have got good stories to tell about what that's meant. So I'm going to ask Mel Pearce from the Bendigo Bank first. You looked a bit startled then, Mel. Just wanted to know, what is the Bendigo Bank doing for their compact action plan, first of all?
Hello?
Yes.
There's probably something a little ironic this morning about the reference to a report card and our own managing director sitting in the room, so I'm feeling a little bit of pressure from an internal perspective, so bear with me on that front. Essentially, from the bank's perspective, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Liz. She's been extremely patient with us. in terms of how we could be involved. And we kind of took a couple of different deviations, but where we landed was essentially in employment. Being a national organisation, we found some of the procurement a little difficult to do at a local level, but where we have been able to, we've really tried to in that aspect. So today we're more so talking about employment. So for the last 12 months, I've had 6 staff members assist me here in Geelong with a mentoring program. We are also one of the host employers for the PTEC program at Newcombe Secondary College. We've had 9 students come and go over the last 12 months who we've mentored for 2 hours every second Monday in our boardroom in our Ryrie Street office. We've watched those children who are in Year 10 develop. We've experienced some hormonal issues on a fortnightly basis. We've had all...
Is that your staffs or the students?
No, well, probably a combination of. I won't say I've been at my sharpest every fortnight. That being said, it's been a really exciting opportunity, one, to work a lot closer with some of the leaders within my business. And I think it takes a community to grow a community, and the young people with our community are our tomorrow's leaders. So what we tried to work out, and we were all new, like the other host employers, how will this PTEC program work and how can we actually evolve this into something more? How could we align this to the GROW principles? So leaning on our business partners internally at People and Performance in Bendigo, our HR is all taken care of out of Bendigo. We tried to get a little bit creative with how we could transform that particular program. So with a lot of hard work, it didn't come easy, and there were a lot of legislative requirements that were sort of new to us in terms of being able to have young people in our organisation under the age of 18 with privacy laws. Anyway, we've crossed that bridge, and we're really pleased to say that we recruited our first school-based trainee in Jack, who's an 8-foot tall, 16-year-old Year 11 student now at Newcombe Secondary College. Unfortunately, we've had 5 of the students take different pathways through PTEC. So with Jack now employed with us on the 12-month traineeship, we've got 3 students that we're working with. That being said, we're working now with GMHBA on how we might be able to consolidate the business stream. I think they're down to 2 or 3 as well. So how could we now collaborate closely with GMHBA, who are one of the other host employers, in making it a greater experience again for the students that are left and also for the 2 organisations.
That's fantastic news, Mel, and I presume that now you've done it once, you'll be able to do it again. The next time will be easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've commenced conversations very early. I've had some association, as Elaine has, with Northern Bay College. So we've commenced some conversations with Fred Clark, who's the overall principal of the campuses, just around how we might be able to replicate what we've done in the school-based traineeship for Northern Bay Secondary College. We have a branch in both of those suburbs, one at Corio and one at Newcombe. So there's also that natural community of customers that we work with and deal with, and we're certainly part of both of those communities. So we're just looking to extend how that looks.
Well, thank you very much. And to you and Mike, I know that everyone associated with Give Where You Live Foundation and G21 and the GROW team really appreciate your involvement and your leading the way in terms of we would like other banks to start thinking about how they could contribute to addressing disadvantage.
Yeah.
So
if I can just read one
Sure.
quote from one. I did
Please
ask
do.
all of my mentors. What I think's been really exciting for myself is the people that I lead. I've watched their own development and they've become better leaders within their own business. One of my staff members made a comment. I asked them, if you could summarise the last 12 months in one sentence, how would you describe it? And Chris Barker, who's one of our mentors, says that he has a greater respect for the teachers and the responsibility that they have in influencing students, which I now realise in my own role as a leader, the influence I have over my own staff. So not only have we created opportunity externally, it certainly has been a personal journey for the 6 of us that have been involved over the last 12 months.
Well done. That's great news. Thank you, Mel. And now we're going to hear from Richard regarding Hamlin Homes. How did Hamlin Homes support young people into apprenticeships in the BAPCare project?
Well, we had a BAPCare project in Norlane, which was 52 units, basically starting in 2016 and ending last year. We obviously engaged Northern Futures, obviously because we had a good relationship with them from the new Norlane project. So we had site visits with Northern Futures coming out with kids and seeing where they wanted to basically start in different trades across the board. We had a couple of apprentices start with our trades on site, just at the BAPCare project. And we were obviously, with the scale of that project, we were able to sort of grow our trade base that was on that project to basically employ further apprentices. So I think we had our bricklaying crew that put on another 2 apprentices and our carpenters that put on another 3. So it was sort of which allowed us to support those apprentices on that project, because obviously the work was there for the next sort of 18 months. So
That's fantastic. And I recall a couple of years ago, might be 3 years ago now, that one of those apprentices that were on the earlier New Norlane project actually was your Apprentice of the Year.
yeah, Sam,
He did so well.
he did really well. So that was with the New Norlane project.
Yes.
So he went all the way through with our carpenter Shane Gill. He basically did, I think, 3 years with Shane, and then he went on to Bar and Water. Now owns a house, he's got a family, so it's a really good story that came off the back of that New Norlane project.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and thanks to Hamlin Homes for creating the opportunity. So what are the critical factors for success as far as Hamlin Homes' perspective?
The biggest thing I think for success is probably the grow clauses within that initial contract with BAPCare at the beginning, because that sort of stems down from the contract with themselves and obviously the contract with us in the tender process.
Yep.
So we've got an obligation to, on site, train up apprentices and keep them going throughout the project,
Yep.
Which is a great outcome because obviously through that project and we've been able to put apprentices on, and then once that project's been finished, they've started up in our normal client housing. So it's sort of rolled on and we've been able to retain those throughout the process. So.
Do you have any comments about the value of the role of Northern Futures and the services that Northern Futures provide to actually assist the employer to actually transition a person who has been potentially unemployed for a long time or comes from a family where there's been systemic unemployment? What role does Northern Futures play in helping Hamlin Homes?
Well, just the small things. You can think, like a lot of the Northern Futures kids, just getting transport to the site, having their CVs done correctly, having on-call support. Northern Futures were amazing with basically getting kids there in the New Norlane project especially, and obviously through BAPCare as well. So that's those little things that you take for granted. I think Northern Futures play a massive role in behind the scenes, which we wouldn't really know about. But yeah, Northern Futures they have a great role.
And we want to acknowledge the role that Northern Futures plays, but also Whittington Works, and of course we'll be hearing from Leah in a little bit about Colac as well, because those wraparound services are really important to help young people transition from unemployment into a job and understand what the necessities are of being an employed person. So that's good. And I wanted to ask you, Richard, about your suppliers. What influence have you been able to have on their protocols and procurement practices in your experience?
Yeah, well, again, with the tender process, we had that ability to put that back onto our suppliers so they can, well, I know Andy at the moment is doing an action plan as part of the Grow project, but yeah, we're looking to further down the line actually put measures in place for suppliers to actually take on apprentices and roll through with our contracts with them to sort of boost jobs within the
Yeah.
suppliers.
That's so important that the compact signatories themselves commit, but we also need to make sure the chain of suppliers to those compact signatories are also on board and understanding their opportunities to address disadvantage as well.
correct, yep.
So please take back to Andy our gratitude. I'm sure
will.
he would have liked to have been here. He's again been someone who's got this right from the start, and
Yeah,
we've
exactly right.
appreciated your company's involvement. So thanks very much, Richard. And now over to Leah. Leah, I remember a couple of months ago we had a function like this in Colac, and where key business leaders from Colac were invited in an attempt to, I suppose, recruit new compact signatories, and of course key people from the Colac-Otway Shire. And I think Leah managed to extract a tear in everybody's eye from telling us the stories about local people and her work with those local, particularly young people, helping them to aspire to a job and actually get one. So what sort of support, Leah, do you offer to the Colac community?
I suppose we have 3 sectors that I mainly deal with. So other service providers, which obviously I can't do everything. So maintaining relationships and linking people into other service providers. And then we have client support or participant support. And then it's no good having clients if you don't have employers to back them up and put them into jobs. So they're kind of the main 3 sectors that we kind of work in Colac.
So would you like to comment on the need for soft skills and what that means and what you do about that?
Well, soft skills, everyone in the employment, I think it's a really overused term. But for some of us, they're bred into us, but some people don't. Knowing that, you know, before you go to interview, you should brush your teeth and comb your hair, and you should wear clean clothes. And so it's all that stuff that we take as people who are already employed, really. And turning up on time, it's not okay to be 5 minutes late for work, especially when you work in a factory environment and everyone's waiting for you. So some of these things, mainly with my younger clients, it can be a real steep learning curve for them because a lot of them disengage school year 7, 8 or 9. So they've been out of what we would call reality, where they just kind of do their own thing. So sometimes it can be a really fast process and people want to take on information and they're a bit of a sponge, and other times it's a really hard, long slog. But we run training programs as well. So we've run one last year, mainly based with ALC, and we're running one next week, which is with ALC, CMTP in Colac, Illawarra Sourdough, and AKD as well. So that's kind of getting them all in the room and drumming those soft skills in one go. But normally I work one-on-one with clients.
So important. And what about your ongoing post-placement support for those young people in particular? So you don't just abandon them to the employer and say, see you later, good luck. What do you do to support those people?
Well, on a client post-placement support, it is, and every client's different. So some clients, will disengage maybe after the couple of weeks because they think they know it all. They do come back sometimes. But, you can only call someone so many times before it becomes harassment and go around to their house. So, but it is, the ones who see value in the program will actually go, oh, I haven't heard from you in a week. I just want to tell you everything's going really well. But especially in those first 4 weeks, making sure you're in contact, you're on top of everything, because that's kind of the time when things come up. You'll have sabotage come in from family or friends, or they'll self-sabotage, or most of these people haven't worked in a long time, so they get sick because they're not used to working full-time. So making sure that they're keeping on top of sleeping and eating and all that sort of stuff. And then there's the post-placement support from the employer's side as well, where we want them to come to us if there's a problem. We don't want to find out, oh, we've let Bob go because he hasn't turned up on time for the last 2 days. Well, give me a call the first morning and I'll make sure Bob's there the second day on time. So, but that's our whole process of building a relationship with an employer. So from ideally, before someone gets a job, we like to go and meet the employer, find out what their recruitment process is, what they're actually looking for in an employee. So there's some things you can and can't put in job ads. So we can have those really hard conversations and then try and maybe change their mind on what they think they want out of his employees, what is actually really important. So maybe, you know, having someone who has a year 12 versus someone who has a year 9, but this year 9 student might actually have a really great aptitude for this sort of work. But yeah, getting in, finding out what it is they actually want, working with them so we have that relationship. So when that person does start, they feel they can actually call us. We do check in with them, but I try not to harass employers too much because I don't want them to say, oh, we're not dealing with Leah anymore. She does just call us all the time. So yeah, it's kind of a two-way street you need, because sometimes clients sort of think they're going fantastic. Then you call the employer and they're like, oh, they're terrible. Or they distract everyone else at work. So sometimes these kids can think they're doing fantastic, or it can be the opposite way. They feel like they just can't get anything right, and because they're new into the workforce, I just can't get it, and they feel really down. So it's getting both sides of the coin.
Well, you're certainly a key player in that, Leah, in Colac. Have you got any examples of sort of any gems of examples in your time in Colac that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Yep. Well, actually, earlier this year we've had a few really good wins. So a heap of people we've been working with for about 6 months. Have had some really great results February, March. But one young fella come to me mid-August last year, referred through a friend who I was helping one of his mates out. And we'll just call him Cooper because that's his name. He was in a really bad place. So he dropped out of school in year 9. And he was 18, so he'd had quite a few years of being disengaged. Had a few jobs on and off, but been fired from every single one of them. He did have other service providers linked in, but due to his whole world's against me attitude, he was disengaged from them because they just got sick of him abusing them.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so there's only so many times you've been called names before you're like, oh, you know what? I was really lucky. I saw that side of him, but never aimed at me. I was lucky being in Colac, you kind of know everyone, or you know someone who knows them, or you're related to someone. So his mother and my sister are best mates. So I knew Cooper when he was like a little boy, but I hadn't seen him in about 10 years. So we already had something there that he could relate to. So we did have times where he would not show up and I'd have to chase him, and then I'd be like, well, so we had up and downs probably the first couple of months, and then we kind of got to that stage where he was thinking about what he actually wanted to do, so we applied for an apprenticeship in Colac, and unfortunately he wasn't successful, and we went through that downward spiral again of, the whole world's against me, I didn't get this apprenticeship. I'm like, mate, there was 14 people that applied for it. You were never going to be a shoo-in, there's a process. So I said, why don't we look at training? And he was like, oh, I don't like school. I said, training's different to school. And so we got him into a journey management course down here just doing civil construction, because he'd get a white card and a forklift, and it was more of a test for me to see if he'd actually get on the train and go. And I knew he had family here, so if he needed to, he could stay. So he did that for about 5 months. In that process of coming up and down, and he was good, he went to him and his friend that he got the referral from, both went. The friend dropped off. He was really good, kept coming down, loved being in Geelong. He said to me one day, I think I'm going to move to Geelong. There's more opportunities, so he was starting to think for himself. There's more opportunities down there for me, and people don't know me, and he'd been a bit naughty in the past, so it's hard to hide that in Colac. I can be a bit more anonymous down here. I said, okay. So he come back down to Colac, we did a heap of resumes, applied for a heap of stuff online, nothing back. And I said to him, it's still really competitive, and he kind of cracked it. And I said, well, you know what? I'm not going to do everything for you. So I said, your next job over the next 2 weeks is every time there's an ad on Gumtree or Seek and you want to actually apply for it, call them. This is what we're going to write our little spiel. So did that. Within 2 days, he had 2 work trials. So, and now he's been working in Geelong for nearly 4 months as a plumber roofer. There has been a few rocky up and downs, but his employer have been really good and really honest, and they're willing to, give him a couple of goes. As far as his work, he's good. It's just still his attitude, but I think that will come as growing up. But he rang me last Tuesday and said, I'm just letting you know that I'll need to change my address. I'm like, oh, are you moving out of your grandparents? Because he's been staying with them. He's like, yep, between them and me, we've bought a unit in Whittington.
Oh.
So not bad for an 18-year-old apprentice.
Fantastic.
And he's like, I'm a grown-up now. I need to get into the
Property market?
job. I'm in the, I'm a working man. I'm in the property market. I'm like, I didn't buy my first house till I was 26. So, that's, and for him, just in himself, complete turnaround from being, excuse my French, a total little shit, to being, this guy that's, he sees he's got self-worth, he's proud of himself, he has got a direction, whereas when I first met him, he was, smoking quite a lot of drugs and didn't want to do anything, to, having a real life purpose now and being a completely different, and even his job active, who he all he did was abuse them. They're like, has he been taken by the body snatchers? So yeah, it's a great turnaround. And we've got a couple of those stories. It doesn't always work out that well, but it's really, that's why I do this job, completely selfish, to, go on those journeys.
Yeah, and you must love that job.
Some days not so much.
Well, we're really grateful for the role that you play, Leah, in Colac, and I know those young people, having been a teacher myself, will look back in years to come and remember the moment in their life when their life changed and you were there. So we're grateful for the work that you're doing with the young people and the employers in Colac. So thank you very much. So that's, please join me in thanking our panel. I'd now like to introduce Anne O'Brien, because we've got some new compact signatories who are going to receive their certificates this morning. So I'll hand over to Anne. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. It's always a great pleasure to introduce compact signatories and to welcome new compact signatories to grow, because of course it's the achievements of the compact signatories that we're here celebrating today. It's the actions of our compact signatories that are driving change in our region. We've got 8 new compact signatories, 6 of whom are here with us. We've got an apology from Dan Callaghan of Aqua Partners Australia, but I will just tell you that Aqua Partners intends to establish a world-leading land-based recirculated aquaculture system out at Avalon. And this will lead to the establishment of a fish processing plant producing 20 tonnes of fish per week. And this is a labour-intensive business, so they're talking about providing employment, local and skilled workforce for 100 permanent staff initially. And they've been talking to Liz and they've expressed their willingness to recruit from Grow target communities. So we're very happy to welcome Aqua Partners into the Grow family. We'd also like to welcome Jenny Edwards from Beanstalk Innovation to come up and collect her certificate and have a photo with Bill and Elaine. Beanstalk Innovation is a not-for-profit organisation that works to re-engage people with education. They work specifically in the food-related industry, and it's about preparing people for employment. Beanstalk Innovation is based in the Geelong Arena in North Geelong and is working with all of Grow's target communities. We'd also like to welcome Martin Stowe. Martin's the director of BERT. BERT's an acronym for Business, Enterprise and Risk Technology. BERT offers an innovative technological solution for managing risk in the workplace, and Grow have already been working with Martin on adapting some of our forms in this cloud-based, secure and real-time data solution. We also see it has many applications and opportunities for other Grow signatories. I would also like to welcome Susan Salter, the Mayor, and Lenny Jenner, the CEO of the Borough of Queenscliff. Thank you very much to the Borough. We now have all 5 local governments in the G21 region as compact signatories, developing action plans to assist collectively towards the Grow Common agenda to address place-based disadvantage. Lenny's been on the whole journey of Grow since the beginning. Lenny is part of our Grow executive as well. We'd also like to welcome, actually, we have an apology from John Fitzgibbon from CLOS. CLOS is an acronym for Cross-Laminated Offsite Solutions. And while he can't be here, we're excited that the opportunity that this initiative, it's a start-up in timber laminated construction, and John's already partnering with other Grow signatories such as the City, Deakin and Hamlin Homes. I'd like to welcome Gary Gow from Diversitat. Diversitat's a not-for-profit charitable community service that's been operating since 1976, and they support the multicultural communities and the disadvantaged and vulnerable in the region with a vision to empower individuals and communities to reach their full potential. And Diversitat is making huge contributions in Grow target communities. Sergio. We'd like to welcome Sergio Lacchiana. He's the Head of Customer Engagement Regions at the Health Purchasing Victoria. HPV is a dynamic organisation and they're passionate about smarter procurement to help Victoria's health services free up resources for patient care. As at 2016-17, the total value of HPV's contract management is estimated to be $914.7 million, and HPV have been engaged with Grow for some time now and have partnered with us to assist particularly social procurement outcomes for our health-related signatories. And last but not least, Keith, we'd like to welcome you up. Keith's the CEO of Surf Coast Shire. Surf Coast Shire are a major local government area in our region, and by joining Grow, will strengthen the opportunities for increased local and social procurement throughout the G21 region. So if everybody wants to just welcome our new Grow Compact signatories. And while I've got the microphone, I just really want to say a big thank you to all of our Grow Compact signatories for driving change that we want to see in our region. And I just want to echo Bill's thanks to our Jobs Victoria partners in particular, to Northern Futures, to Whittington Works, to White Line, and of course to our team in Colac who do an awesome job. And on your seats you'll see the little brochure which is some voices of some of the job seekers that these employment services have worked with us on. So thank you to those organisations for partnering in that action research with us. I know we're running out of time, but I did also want to say a huge thank you to the Backbone team, Kerry Ferrans and Liz Everest, working behind the scenes. Kerry's the reason that we have measurement and data that can inform us about our progress, but also about our challenges so that we can work to problem solving many of the challenges and barriers that we have with measuring this beast. And to Liz in engagement, the fantastic work many of you will know Liz does because she's engaging with you every day, every hour, supporting our compact signatories to work out what it is they could put in an action plan that's going to drive change in our region. Now I'd like to hand back to Bill to finish proceedings today.
Okay, thanks, Anne, and should we get you out of here before 9 o'clock? I think Corangamite CMA were up there as well, who are unfortunately an apology as well, but they're also a new compact signatory, which is terrific. So Anne stole a bit of my thunder. I was going to thank the Grow team at Give Where You Live, Kerry, who's done an enormous amount of work to produce all that data. So, we get 2 slides up there of data, to a couple of metrics, and all the work that's gone into producing that has been extraordinary, and months and weeks of a lot of time-consuming work. And she's done it with great aplomb, great expertise, and pretty much a good sense of humour too, which has been pretty good. So well done to Kerry, and of course we heard from Leah, who's doing amazing work down in Colac, and Liz as well. So well done to both of you. And so one person I can thank, who, because she couldn't really thank herself, is Anne. So Anne works with the Give Where You Live Foundation as a Grow Director, and oversees all that mess that you... I shouldn't say, that sounds bad, doesn't it? She does a fantastic job, and is incredibly passionate about the work, which is what we want from all of our staff members. But she shows incredible passion and great skill and expertise in being able to work in a very complicated and complex environment. So well done to you as well, Anne. I'd just also like to thank Arc Blue, Chris Newman here from Arc Blue. So behind the scenes in all of that is a lot of work on databases and managing data, and some very clever economic modelling, and we're very fortunate to be able to have Arc Blue as contractors within the initiative. And although I say the word contractor, doesn't quite really describe exactly the amount of involvement and the amount of effort that Arc Blue put in. I know we get a lot more effort and a lot more work than really we pay for, certainly. There's a lot of pro bono work. So been with us right from the very beginning. We're part of developing the strategic plan, have done an enormous job. So to you, Chris, thank you, and to Arc Blue, and maybe we just give him and them a hand, quick hand. Okay, so just to finish, I guess, the message, I think, is clear, is that we have had some really good results, and I think we are slowly starting to see some change. But I don't think that finishes today. In fact, I know it doesn't finish today. In some ways, maybe it only just starts. And while I'm probably preaching to the converted a little bit, there might be some people amongst you who aren't signatories and thinking about it, or certainly there'll be people amongst you who know other organisations and businesses who could become signatories and should become signatories. And I'd encourage you to advocate to them and encourage them to become a signatory. And I guess often people say, well, why would I do that, and what's the reason? So I can give you a couple of big, broad reasons. The first is, I reckon, a business reason. So I think there are lots of reasons why being a Grow signatory is good for your business. It creates a diversity in your workplace. Through that diversity, you get a different lens, different opinions, different views on the world, which is only going to make your business better. It'll help engage your employees, because your employees will see you doing something different. You'll have a diversity of conversation which will engage your employees. Also, I think you'll end up, what Grow's trying to do in a very broad sense is create a better and more inclusive economy. And a better economy is better for all businesses. Very hard to run a really good, successful business in a failing economy. Really hard thing to do. So a successful economy is going to be good for your business. But I reckon there's one other thing, and it's happened just recently. In fact, only a couple of days ago. So while I'm not pretending for 1 minute Grow was the reason for this announcement, but it did play a role. It certainly played a role. So 2 days ago in the state budget, the state government committed $150 million to a city deal for Geelong and the region, and are looking to the federal government to match that, and we're very hopeful that will happen. That is quite a momentous announcement and time for the region. It's going to see the long-awaited convention centre built. It's going to see further revitalisation of the CBD. It's going to see increased and better safe harbour down at the yacht club, and most importantly, I think for the region, it's going to see the development of the Shipwreck Coast Master Plan, which will create jobs and employment and the visitor economy experience, incredibly important to this region, and if you like, the spine of this region, the Great Ocean Road. So all of that has been advocated for a long time and is important, but one of the reasons, I reckon, that the federal government decided that Geelong and the region surrounding Geelong would be the place for the first Victorian city deal, because there hasn't been one since, is because of Grow. Not the only reason by any stretch, and probably not even the main one, but certainly one of them. We were ready and prepared, we knew what we were talking about, and we knew that a city deal wasn't just going to be about give us some money, because as soon as we just start saying give us some money, people start to turn off. It was about actually linking it in and making sure that we had inclusive growth, and that the growth that 150 million, hopefully matched, so $300 million is going to provide, will be inclusive growth. that everyone within the region will get the opportunity to share in that. So if that's not a good business reason why to sign up to Grow, I don't know what else is. So the other reason, though, I reckon, which is for me personally, and for many of the people working in it personally, I think, as important, if not more important, is simply an ethical one. So I think it's important that we don't just drive past, that we don't just walk past, that we don't just say this is what that person, those people's lot in life is, that we actually act and do something about that. So we have to act. We have to actually consciously act. If you're a compact signatory, you have to act still because you've got to do a compact action plan. If you're not a compact signatory, then you have to act by signing up. And I reckon, so right at the very beginning when we first started, I acknowledged the traditional owners, the traditional custodians of the land, because I guess now what we do is we share this place with them. And we're lucky to share this place with them. But the thing that I want to say is that we all share this place. We all collectively share this place. Whether you're from Newtown or Norlane, whether you're from Lewis, Colac, West Geelong or Whittington, we all share this place together. And I reckon everyone in this place that we share should have the opportunity to participate in this place and be successful in this place just as much as anyone else. So I reckon that the effort of signing the compact and producing a plan which you will produce, which will contain actions that you are not only very able to complete, but very capable of undertaking. I reckon that effort is pretty much inconsequential compared to the effort that it must be to battle every single day, get out of bed and battle every day an unconscious bias, prejudice because of the way you look, or maybe the way you dress, or, God help me, your address, the place you live, prejudice because of where you live. Battle maybe being invisible, just not being seen, and battle a lack of basic resources to just actually get employment. Battle resources like a lack of transport or lack of internet access. I reckon to me, that sounds absolutely insurmountable. That sounds difficult, but we've got brave members of our community, really courageous members of our community who are battling that every single day. And those members of our community, we share this place. We share this place with them. So I reckon as a community, we have an absolute obligation to ensure that we allow those people, we give the best benefit and enable those people to share this place just the same way as we share this place. So, as I say, I reckon the least you can do is sign up. That's really easy. But once you've signed up, act. It's important that we act, and collectively if we act, I think we will do great things and we'll really create the cultural change that we know really needs to happen. So, a little bit past 9 o'clock, but thank you very much for being here. As I said, I'm probably preaching to the converted a bit, but it is terrific to have you all here. The results are great. We're really proud of them. I'm really pleased with them. Thank you for all of your contributions, and I hope the rest of your day is fantastic. Good on you. Thank you.